Welcome, everyone. My name is Declan Kirby, Chartered Financial Planner here at Henwood Court Financial Planning. I'm kindly joined by Mike Folis, Enoch Evans, family solicitor and divorce specialist. Today is a form of a Q&A session where where Mike will deep dive into prenuptial agreements as part of your wider financial planning and really explain why they're so important. We have a list of questions that all my clients ask me, so we'll run through that today, and we'll kindly follow off with some questions from the audience that we'll hopefully have later on. Mike, thanks for joining us. Could you just quickly run through your expertise, what exactly you do for clients, and why today's so important?
Okay, well, thanks for introducing me, Declan. Yeah, I'm head of family department here at Enoch Evans. And I've got well over 30 years experience as a solicitor specialising in family matters. But prenups, particularly at this time of year, are very much on the agenda. And I've noticed in the last 10 to 15 years, increasingly on the agenda, because I think there's a growing realisation amongst people that actually prenups work. And it's that subject which really I want to help people to understand better as we go on.
Perfect. No, thank you. I mean, it's a really topical question and topic that I get spoken with about clients all the time. So again, thanks for taking the time today to run through that. Let's deep dive into it. Let's start with the first and most important question. What is a prenuptial agreement?
Well, a prenup is really a way in which a couple can set out what they would want to happen in the unfortunate event of things not working out in their marriage. Now, marriage is hopefully about love, about wanting to be together, and so people can be reluctant, and that is understandable. But you know, when we go on holiday, we ought to take out holiday insurance. Yeah. We hope we won't have an accident or trip up or have a problem, but it's safe to do it. Similarly with prenups, you know, everyone wants a long and happy marriage, but it can give people clarity, certainty. It can help to protect assets, and in some ways, because everyone knows where they stand, maybe it can even assist the marriage in going through difficult times because they know exactly where they are.
Okay. No, understood. Okay. How legally enforceable are they?
Okay, well, I could probably spend 2 hours on this one, but I'll be brief. If they're drawn up in the right way and the couple do the right things, yes, they are enforceable. The courts have a discretion. They always have had a discretion as to how to divide up the assets in the event of a divorce. But since particularly a case that went through the courts in 2010, the courts have been pretty well upholding these agreements when we do the right things. I can come to the detail of that if you wish. But there was a case where the court said, and I'm going to briefly mention what the court said in this case. The court should give effect to the prenuptial agreement that is entered into freely by the parties as long as they have a full appreciation of its implications, unless the circumstances prevailing would make it unfair to hold them to the agreement. And one of the unfairness or reasons why sometimes a couple may not find that their agreement is upheld is because it is really unfair. So it needs to at least provide for the needs, possibly the basic needs in some cases of the parties, and not be completely one-sided.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
I'll mention one other thing. There's a bill, the prenuptial agreement bill. It hasn't been enacted. It's been around for about, 9 years. It was recommended by the Law Commission to go through. One day, maybe that will become law. It will then have actually Parliament saying that these agreements are valid, not just the judges and the courts. That's something for the future. But we do keep an eye on that bill because the contents of it are something we need to implement really when we prepare these agreements, so we make sure there's full and frank disclosure and other things.
Okay. No, thanks for that. I think it's pretty evident to most people listening that prenups obviously help people prior to marriage. What happens if a client or clients are already married?
Well, there is a postnuptial agreement. Here, perhaps we're looking at a scenario where the couple are happy, they're together, no divorce or separation is contemplated, but perhaps there's an inheritance. Perhaps one of them comes into a business, or there's a change of circumstances in which they both agree, well, look, if it did go the wrong way, this marriage, that should remain yours. You can keep this, both keep their inheritances. Then they can have a postnuptial agreement. I guess the only difference between a prenup and a postnup is if one party says no to the postnup, then that's that. I mean, with a prenup, in theory, of course, what can happen? Well, not in theory, in practice, if one party felt they really didn't want to sign that document, well, they don't have to. But then, of course, the other party could say, well, you know, are we going to go ahead with this marriage?
Yeah, understood. That's understood. Thanks for that. When is the ideal time to enter into a prenup then, Mike?
Well, it's one of the things arising from the cases that have been looked at. It shouldn't be signed at the doors of the church or the register office. You should allow at least 1 month, which will help to persuade anyone at a later date. This wasn't a last-minute shotgun wedding, so to speak. In fact, the bill I referred to refers to a month. It should be signed at least a month before, but the preparatory work should actually be carried out before that, perhaps 2-3 months before, because documents need to be prepared and so forth. So it does take a little time.
Okay, that's understood. That's very clear, Mike. Thank you. What does a prenup cover then? What is covered within that agreement?
Well, I'll give you some examples, but the point of a prenup is it is an agreement, so it depends upon what the parties want to agree. In every case, it's different. One party may be looking to preserve inherited assets, so it can protect assets. It can cater for income. So if one party is likely to be dependent upon another, it can look at that situation. Really, a whole range of financial issues.
Okay. How is it prepared, Mike? How is this agreement prepared exactly?
Well, although probably the majority of my work is divorce and finance, I need to get a different head on when dealing with prenups. We're dealing here with a couple who hopefully are going to have a wonderful marriage together. And so things tend to proceed on a much more friendly basis. Having said that, it's best if both parties have their solicitor, but it's conducted in a very amicable way. Ordinarily, one solicitor prepares the draft agreement that their client says, well, that's what we see. After that is then sent to the other party who gets legal advice. And it's really good that they do both get legal advice. So there were no hidden secrets in that agreement. They're both very clear. And also it assists with the enforceability of the agreement if it's been explained properly by a family lawyer.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you for that. Final question that I've got, Mike, that my clients would always ask, and I think it's important. What is the typical cost of a prenup?
It does vary. It doesn't tend to be just a fixed cost. So it does depend on what the couple want in their agreement. In a fairly straightforward case, I think you can usually be looking at costs of between 2,000 to 3,000 plus VAT. Now that may sound like a lot of money. It is to some people, but you need to put it in context. If the couple are able to reach an agreement in which everything is very clear and they know where they stand, if one day they found themselves going through divorce, the costs of actually litigating and trying to sort out a settlement at that point can far exceed those sort of figures. So in the long run, it can save money. And typically, if you look at what most people spend on their wedding, it's a great deal more than that. So it is quite proportionate, and they are bespoke documents. If a client comes in and asks about a prenup, I can't open my desk drawer and pull one out. It so much depends upon what they want to achieve.
Yes, so bespoke, absolutely. Mike, thank you. That is all the questions I had that my clients typically raise with me. So thanks for running through those. We have
that's fine.
One question from one of the attendees today. So again, thanks for sending that in. The question is, what if clients have assets abroad, foreign connections? How does that impact a prenup?
Well, that can affect things quite considerably. You see, I'm talking about the law here in England and Wales, and how the courts approach these matters. Now, the courts in foreign jurisdictions can approach it quite differently. So there are a number of issues that arise. In the event of the couple divorcing, is there a possibility that that divorce may take place in a foreign country? I've had cases before with dual nationality and where the couple actually getting married here, but intending to go and live in America, Germany, or wherever else. So we need to watch that because, again, I've had some cases where we have what we call mirror agreements. So the client will also take some advice in whichever country they have the strong connection with, where they may find themselves living, and see whether or not we can have a prenup that is recognized in that country that mirrors the agreement that we have here. Okay. There are some other issues about jurisdiction and so forth, but the prenup can, in fact, deal with property abroad. If they simply have a holiday home in France, prenup
Yes.
here can deal with that. But where there's a clear foreign connection, we need to look at all the possibilities to ensure that they are protected and their agreement is honoured.
Okay, that's really clear, Mike. Thank you, Mike. That is all the questions I've had through so far. Is there a final message you would give to the attendees today, or those watching on record, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, people coming for prenups, it can happen for a whole number of reasons. It may be parents who are concerned. It may be that there's a big disparity in their capital or income at the time. But I think the important thing is to get some advice, to look at this, in a business-like manner, but it can be dealt with in a very friendly manner too. So it's something which I would highly recommend to anyone who's looking at getting married to at least think about and decide whether or not this in the long run may be the best thing for them. And I think a lot of people get married where they ought to have had one. It would have saved them a lot of money at the end of the day, but ultimately it's their choice.
Okay, brilliant, Mike. Thank you. We have had just one question come. If I could read this to you. I mean, if we haven't got time to answer it, you'd like to take it offline, Mike, please do this. But it's, what about the increase in value of assets, or if an asset is sold in the future and the proceeds are then mixed with other assets? For example, a house is sold and proceeds used to buy a larger family house. How does that impact a prenup?
Well, again, this is why the agreements are bespoke. To some extent, we have to look forward to the future to see, what the probabilities are of how their assets will be. And we can try to cater for those situations within the agreement. So let's say if one party contributes much more to the family home or some investment, we can say, well, that party will get a larger percentage out if it all goes wrong. There can be unforeseen circumstances, and one of the circumstances that it is always difficult to legislate for is the arrival of a family. Now, again, I could talk for a long time about that, but it can be extremely useful to have a review clause, because what may be right for a couple who split up without children may be completely inappropriate where there's a child or children. So that's another situation that we need to keep an eye on and possibly review the agreement during the marriage.
So you find that typical then, Mike? So the review of a prenup along that client's journey, it's obviously it can be a one-off exercise, but not always the case.
Yeah, it varies from case to case, but the arrival of a child is a big impact, and that may well change. One of the things I referred to earlier was the needs of the parties. And if the needs of the parties hasn't really been addressed, and the needs, of course, can change significantly, not only that there's needs for the child, but if one of the parents becomes the primary carer for the child, then maybe their needs change too in terms of what housing and other provisions they need for that child.
Brilliant. Mike, thanks for going into detail there on those questions. I mean, as you say, you could go into a lot of detail here. Today's LinkedIn live session isn't for that. It's a high level Q&A session. So again, thanks for the questions.
My pleasure.
To everyone. And again, Mike, thank you for your valuable time. Just to finish off, thanks for those who attended. I hope you found the event informative, useful. This will be recorded, so we can put this on our YouTube channel for anyone who would like to watch later down the line. So thanks for joining. Mike, it would be the best contact details would be your email address for those who wish to get in contact?
Yes, indeed. It's on our website, Enoch Evans, but it's mif@enochevans.co.uk.
Brilliant. Mike, again, thanks for your time. And we'll catch up soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, Declan.
Take care. Bye now.